Have you ever found yourself at the door of a Nathaniel Hawthorne house, either by accident or otherwise? I think we're being drawn to Nathaniel Hawthorne's door because there are 4 Nathaniel Hawthorne house museums. There's a 5th house that's preserved because of Nathaniel Hawthorne in Maine, but there are 4 in Massachusetts, 2 in Concord and 2 in Salem. So 2 of them, the later owners of the house, turned into a Nathaniel Hawthorne house museum because people kept showing up at their door. And instead of finding this an annoyance, they realized this was a great stream of income. So the first 2 in Concord, Massachusetts, are the Wayside and the Old Manse. The Old Manse is famous because the first shot of the American Revolution actually happened on the bridge in the backyard, which is why I showed up to tour this house. But it turns out Nathaniel Hawthorne also lived here and wrote a series of short stories while living here, which were compiled into a book titled After the House. It was called Mosses from an Old Manse, and the first story in the house is actually about the Revolutionary history. Interestingly, he didn't just leave a literary mark on this house, he physically carved his name into a window in his writing room. Hawthorne also lived in a house called the Wayside, which was later lived in by a woman named Harriet Lathrop, whose pen name, because she was also an author, is Margaret Sidney. And she did something really interesting when she had visitors showing up at her house because Hawthorne had lived there. She started putting up signs in each room describing how the Hawthorne family used each room. For example, the dining room was once the library, so there's a library sign. And the coolest part of the house is upstairs. Nathaniel Hawthorne actually built himself a tower so that he could have a writing room away from the rest of the house. So I actually showed up at this house because the author of Little Women once lived in it, but I ended up learning more about Nathaniel Hawthorne than Louisa May Alcott. Another time, I was in Boston and realized that Salem is only a short ferry ride away. So I took a day trip to the House of the Seven Gables, which is now not only the title of a book, but the name of the house in which Nathaniel Hawthorne stayed in and wrote a fictional novel. Interestingly, this house has not been restored to look like it did when Nathaniel Hawthorne lived in it, but to look like it's straight out of his novel. For example, the kitchen has been divided in half and a shop put in. This is not original to the house. This is straight out of the book and was added to the house because of tourism. Also, Nathaniel Hawthorne's birth house has been transported onto the property, so this counts as the 4th house of his I have toured completely by accident. So, what is it about Nathaniel Hawthorne, and why do we keep ending up at his houses?